You're listening to Impolite Society with Laura and Rachel.
Push it. Ma-na-na-na. Push it. Ma-na-na-na. Ooh, baby, baby. But baby, baby. Ooh, baby, baby. Push it real good. Get up on this. Get up on Impolite Society, the podcast that you're listening to, and the podcast where your host, Laura and Rachel, I'm Rachel. I'm Laura. Where we take turns asking each other rude questions, and then we dig into those tactless topics through our research, our own experiences, and some amusing musings, if I do say so myself. And I have a rude question today. Let me tell you, all the other topics we talked about, forget it. Forget it. Are you smart? Psh, nothing. Necrophilia? That's just a Sunday in the park. I have a rude question, because today we are talking birth. You know it, the short slide down the meat chute.
I have never heard it referenced that way.
I created it.
I guess it's accurate.
It's a Rachel original. I workshopped it. I ran it through some test audiences, and then I wrote it down under the Google Doc for today.
They all went, ooh.
Yeah, and that's the reaction I'm going for every day. Well, I mean, it's a very relevant topic, too, because, you might not know this, but 100% of people have been directly affected by birth or being born.
Ooh, that's a fascinating statistic.
I'm sure you did not know that, and this is the kind of content that you sign up for when you listen to the Impolite Society. We're educating, we're enlightening the world, and that's a fact.
I have been born, and I have birthed another human.
That, my friend, is why we are so lucky to have you with us tonight, right here on the pod. Laura, is it true that you have had sex that caused ejaculation that resulted in a fertilized egg which eventually became a living human baby?
I plead the fifth. I do not wish to incriminate myself or others.
No.
Yes, of course. I've had sex. I didn't just have sex. I had sex that resulted in baby sex, which is the sexiest sex of all sex. Not like sexiest as in like the most attractive, but like sex that has babies. That didn't make any sense. You got me. You know what I meant.
Yeah, you were saying it's the sexy sex, and I'm like, yes, it's what makes sex sexy is 18 years of responsibility and commitment. Lock it in. Yeah. Oh, you're
Get
not
it,
going
girl.
on any international trips for a while. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Retirement? What's that?
My financial advisor says I'm in good line for retirement. However, the trips to Europe, spot on, unfortunately.
So let's approach this crude conversation, right? And this is how I'm going to break it down. It's a little bit different. Normally I ask the question, we talk about our experiences, and then we do the research, da-da-da-da. But we're going to take a slightly different approach, and we're going to treat this like it is a hurricane going on in the Gulf of Florida. I am going to be your anchor, so I'm going to be here in the studio, safe, warm, and still oh so very tight. And
keeping it tight. Rachel, hashtag keeping it tight.
Hashtag. And Laura's going to be our on-site, in the field reporter who is just like in the thick of it. I'm going to be telling you what giving birth is like. And Laura, who did have sex, God watched, he was there. She did have sex and she had a baby, and then the baby was born, like 6 months from when we were recording this podcast. So she's been through it. So, I mean, it's still 6 months. I feel like that's very recent. The scars.
Yeah, she's 6 months old, and hashtag keeping it loose over here.
That's if you've listened to our podcast, you know that. Laura's the loosey-goosey one. I'm really uptight and constantly afraid of being canceled.
If you like this podcast, you know Rachel has a tight vagina and Laura has a loose vagina. And
that's not what I was saying. Okay, so before we start on this great journey down the birth canal, I have a question that is seriously at the heart of every birth announcement, Facebook post, and Christmas card with a little new baby on it.
Okay.
You ready for this question?
I'm ready.
Laura, when you were giving birth to your beautiful daughter, did you shit on a table in front of people?
I did not. And
Living the dream.
Yeah, and I don't know the statistics. You might go into it, but I know that a lot of people do. I didn't know about it, I think, until Scrubs. I think Scrubs was the one that informed me that people poo on the table. So I may be one of the lucky ones.
So let's get into it, right? We know what birth looks like on TV, right? It's the sitcom wife with the huge belly who's still somehow very skinny, groaning.
Who's not at all fat in the face and completely slim.
Her ankles are still like little toothpicks. And she's in the car as they're driving to the hospital. Making all those, yes, all those noises. But we know that can't be the reality. At least I hope we know that can't be the reality, even if I don't know what the reality is.
It certainly wasn't for me.
So we're going to jump right in. So we have established that birth is something that is actually pretty common. It touches all of our lives, but there's still a lot of mystery around it. You know, you think of when we talk about the groaning, grunting sitcom wife going to the hospital, what else do you usually see? A husband outside the room pacing back and forth, and then a doctor emerges and says, it's a boy or it's a girl. And
I think that's really like old school media, though. Like now I feel like the man is in there like getting his hand comically crushed. That's new
true.
Sitcom thing. Now they're in there like, oh, you hurt my hand. I know you're pushing a baby out of your vagina, but you hurt my hand.
My poor delicate bird bones. Or they're like, the doctor's like, do you want to take a look? And then they look and then they faint. I feel like that's also a trope.
Yep, absolutely.
So there is a fair amount of secrecy because even in these modern takes, you don't see what's happening. You just see the crushed hand or the fainting husband. There's a whole lot of secrecy around it.
Tell me about it. I'm all in.
Bump, 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 bump. This is your news anchor, Rachel, reporting live from the studio. I'm going to be telling you all about the birth process. And then, who's that out in the field?
Yes, Rachel, this is Laura. I have experience what you're talking about, and I'm anxious to give you some updates. You might hear some background noises, some screaming, some crying, some gushing of a variety. But I'm here to answer all of your questions and show our viewers exactly what's going on here on the ground floor.
Okay. We're going to have to do some anatomy, right? Because I don't think this is something that everybody knows. Sex ed in America, not always the best.
Okay, drop it on me.
So there's 3 main parts of the birth. You got your vagina.
I'm familiar with that part.
I think most of us are. And if you aren't, it's not the outside part, FYI.
It's the inside part.
It's the inside. And then you have the 2 critical parts of this endeavor, which is the womb and the cervix. And
the womb, that is not the anatomical word. It is uterus.
You're right. Uterus are right. There's these 2 pieces. And to explain how they operate together, I'm going to fall back on the most classic way of understanding things.
Okay.
And that is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
So your womb is like Mordor.
Fiery and angry.
Not quite that way. But in this analogy, your womb is like Mordor, and the cervix is the Black Gate. And one does not simply walk into Mordor.
No.
The cervix is there. It's the gatekeeper. It kind of lets a few little happy sperms in every now and then, but mostly keeps them separate. The flaw in this plan is that it's hard to get in, it's hard to get out. So, labor, a big part of it involves opening the Black Gate. Like those trolls are pushing the gears that are swinging the Black Gate open to let Sauron's army out on the world.
And oh man, are those trolls working hard and painfully, let me tell you. Honestly, like you would think that it wouldn't be so fucking painful, but it is. Ugh.
We'll get into that a little bit at the musing part where we talk about why it's just so hard for human women. When it looks, on the nature shows that we talked about, those gazelles make it look like a piece of cake.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so those are the 3 main players, vagina, cervix, the womb, aka the uterus. And here we go. Okay, so the first stage is pre-labor. And this is the stage where you begin to feel regular contractions, right? They're starting to kick in. They feel a little like, ooh, a little tickle, right? It feels like a tickle, I'm sure.
Do they feel like a tickle?
I don't know. We'll find out from our field reporter here in a second. You start to feel that your cervix starts to open, which is what we call in the medical profession dilating. And the gate's starting to open, essentially. This is what is going to begin to allow the baby to move into the birth canal, which I did look this up. The birth canal is your vagina, which for some reason we have to call it separate things for the purpose of birth.
Yeah, that is definitely weird. Like, it's the same thing, doesn't change anything, but suddenly it's a birth canal, not a vagina, because a vagina is for fucking, a birth canal is for babies.
We would never want our innocent, pure little babies to touch any place a dick was. Like, that's just insane. Vaginas are dirty and they're for sex. Birth canals are for bringing beautiful life into this world. Okay, so what's happening now that we've officially hit all the terminology that we're going to talk about? So you're just starting to blossom. Like, it's loosening up. It's drinking a few beers. It's having some fun with its pals. It's loosening up after a really hard 9 months. And imagine how upsetting this would be for being a baby, where you're like, you're in there, you're resting on your comfy cervix pillow, and all of a sudden your head just starts sinking into it. That would be very upsetting. So I wanted to ask my field reporter, Laura, what happened in this stage? What is this stage like?
Okay, so for me, I was at home. I woke up at like 6 in the morning and I'm like, oh, something is going on down there.
Oh, no.
And it was not a tickle, but it wasn't like excruciating. There was, maybe similar to menstrual cramps. I was like, oh, there's definitely something going on down there.
You knew it was different.
Yeah, but there is a lot like Braxton Hicks, which are like fake contractions or preparatory contractions, basically.
A dress rehearsal for your body.
Exactly. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. We'll have to monitor this situation throughout the day. And through the day it was, because I was at home all day. Okay, so like these slight flutters started at like 5 or 6 a.m. and then continued throughout the day, and they started to get worse and worse. They weren't regular. That's the thing, that you want to look at how regular they are, because my doctor told me they should be like 2 minutes apart and, lasting so long before you go to the hospital. So I've got this little app on my phone, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm starting to like start and stop the thing, and it'll tell you when you should go to the hospital. I think I started timing them around like 2:00. They were still kind of all over the place. Around that time, I just started like laying in the bed. I was no longer going about my day. You know what I mean?
It was that disruptive.
Yeah. And then around 6:00, I stopped being able to do anything else. I was experiencing these contractions. They still weren't regular, but they were pretty damn intense. Like, I was laying there and like I'd have one and I was like, trying to breathe or not breathe or whatever. They want you to breathe, but I'm trying to breathe through them. And like between each one, I'm just kind of laying there like a whale, like, oh. And I remember Austin asking me like, do you want to turn something on the TV? And I'm like, no! I just want to lay here
and suffer. He was probably just like, can I turn something on the TV?
Yeah, probably. But I was just waiting for the next one. And like, I was doing the thing. I was grabbing his hand and burying my face in a pillow and just getting through. And so eventually it did come to the point where they were 2 minutes apart for an hour around like 11 p.m. And we're like, all right, let's go. Let's pack it up. Let's head off to the hospital.
It's happening. Yep. Little baby's coming. So then when you went to the hospital, what happens? I know that they have to take a little look-see inside and see what's going on.
Yeah, so they admitted me, and there's like an admission process where I'm sitting there like trying to answer questions, and I'm like, like having and they're calling back like to the thing, and they're like, Yeah, she looks like she's having some pretty intense contractions. Can you go ahead and take her back?
Well, of course, there's like a little human trying to punch its way out of your body like alien.
Yeah, so they get me back, you undress, and they put you in the stupid hospital gown, they lay you down, they ask you 1,000 questions while I'm having contractions. And I didn't even know what was to come. I didn't know how much worse it was going to get. It was bad enough, but I did not know how much worse it was going to get. But they lay you down and they take a look up, see, and they're like, yeah, you're 1 centimeter dilated.
Which we didn't even talk about how many centimeters you need to get to, but it's 10.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than 1.
Baby is coming at 10.
Yeah, so at 1 centimeter dilated, normally they just send you home, right?
Yes, normally they do. They say, get your ass back home because you're not anywhere close. However, I was already after my due date, so I had an induction scheduled on Tuesday if it didn't happen sooner. So they're like, well, normally we'd probably send you home, but since you're scheduled for Tuesday, you're staying.
They're like, we don't want that baby to hang out any longer. He might, or she might start damaging the place. I don't know. Whatever happens.
I asked. I was like, why is it? They're like, placentas have an expiration date.
So we talked about 1 centimeter. You still had a ways to go, but once it continues to open and the gates are opening and our orc army is beginning to march, this is where the fun time ends. As you hinted at, it only gets worse from here. So as you approach active labor, what was your experience like? So you spent a lot of time in the hospital.
You're damn straight I did. Okay, so like I said, I was admitted at 11 p.m. Once you get admitted, you're not allowed to eat anything because they don't know what's going to happen. So
if you need to get surgery or something.
Yeah, if you need to get a C-section. So no solid foods. You're allowed water, soda, and
soda.
Well, like like Sprite,
like decaf.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, at that
Sprite
point, just
juice.
like, give me a black coffee. I'm gonna be up for the next 72 hours.
Yeah, I don't think it was coffee. It was like white soda, juice, Jello, broth, and smoothies. They actually had some really good smoothies. I recommend the mango over the raspberry. But anyway.
Oh wow, they on Grubhub? Can I order one right now?
They're pretty tasty.
The hospital smoothies.
I could go for one right now. Yeah, I could have a mango smoothie with my wine as we chat. But so I was admitted at 11, and then around 7 a.m. they take a look and they're like, okay, so you are at 1 centimeter still.
No! So this is all still pre-labor. Like, the show hasn't even started yet. This is the overture.
Yeah. And this is common for first pregnancies, especially in my family. So most of the women in my family have had C-sections. Apparently, we just don't deal well with this. The Mordor gates do not want to open. And
smart, which is smart, because that's how little hobbits is slipping.
The hobbits is. So at that point, they're like, okay, I think we're gonna start you on Pitocin to start opening up the cervix more, to continue the process more quickly. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And they're like, do you want an epidural? The epidural is the needle in the spine, y'all, that does a block from that point down, that basically makes you completely numb and essentially paralyzed.
And the needle, mind you, the needle to do these things, which Laura didn't look at, is like 4 inches long. So it's like literally goes into your spinal cord. It's nothing about this process sounds fun.
No, nothing about it was fun. So we're telling it correctly. And so they said, do you want an epidural? And I had this grand vision of having a child without an epidural. That was my general vision.
And who told you were crazy?
Rachel and many other people. Don't worry.
I know. I didn't have to. I never had a kid, and I was like, no.
And I was like, yes, I want the epidural because I've already been doing this for 12 fucking hours, and I'm over it already. So they come in with the needle. It was terrifying. I started bawling in the middle of it. Not because it hurt so bad, but because, like, I was just so scared.
Of a 4-inch
like,
needle going into your spinal cord?
Yes.
Yeah, I would be a little concerned as well.
Yeah. And, like, also they wouldn't let my husband, like, hold my hand as they were doing it. It must be some sort of safety protocol or something. They're like, he has to stand on the other side of the room.
That's just,
like, while you do
that's
this.
just in case they kill you. He doesn't have to be so traumatized.
Maybe. I don't know. But, like, I was, like, bawling throughout the whole thing, like, trying to, like, hold my breath. And they're like, you're doing great. You're doing great. I'm like, am I? I don't feel like
I'm a little kid having a meltdown. But okay, keep patronizing me.
That is exactly how I felt. But, so they finally got it in. In case you don't know this, which I didn't really know. I mean, it's fairly common apparently, but I guess it's not something people talk about. Epidurals fail, everyone. And it's a really scientific process where they put the needle in. They ask you, do you feel this on the left or the right of your body? And they're like, is it to the left or to the right? To the left or to the right? I'm like, this is the process?
That seems...
And I'm like, left, right. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I can barely manage it when it's my eyesight at the eye doctor. Better, worse. Better, yeah. I don't fucking know. I'm like, it looks the same. And after 140 million births a year, you couldn't have figured it out? That's a lot of practice. It should be a little bit better, one would imagine.
So they placed it after this mad left, right, I don't fucking know scenario.
Wait, they're trying to feel like what side of the body the needle's on?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I thought they were, like, poking you to see if your legs were numb.
No.
Oh, no.
The needle is in your spine.
Nope.
Yep. And I'm like, I don't know. Fine. It's great. Get it out of me. And so after they do that, they, like, duct tape it in place, basically. Like, it's a, like, giant medical, adhesive on your back, which left my skin totally fucked for, like, a week where they put it. It's huge.
Honestly, that's the least of your concerns at that point.
Yeah, exactly. They finally put it in and taped it down and everything. And then, like, one side of my body is completely numb. I can't move. I don't remember which it was. See, this is what 6 months will do to you. One side of my body, I can't do anything to. I can't move my leg up and down. And the other side, I'm, like, doing the can-can with. And so I'm like, okay, clearly there's something wrong here.
You didn't answer the question right when it said left or right. You were like, you should have been in the moment more and paid more attention. And so it's truly your fault.
So they try to adjust it. So they take the adhesive off and they wiggle around a needle in your spine.
Oh, no.
And they're like, okay, let's try this for a while. That didn't work. So then they took it out and they did the whole thing again. And this time they let my husband hold my hand. Thank God.
They were like, we gotta do something about this girl.
Yeah, she's a hot mess. So then they put it in again. And we'll get more to that later.
Okay, so we're leaving off right at the end of pre-labor. So this is, how many hours is this for you, by the way?
Well, okay, at this point, if they've placed the epidural and then taken it out and then redone
did some jiggling, maybe did they bring the Fonz in and he, like, bonked you with his fist?
I wish. That would have worked. We're talking... I mean, at least 18 to 20 hours.
Jesus Christ. Awful. Sounds horrible. Anyways, so we're 20 hours in and we're just now hitting what is considered labor.
Well, actually, no, because there's a lot more before I actually ended up hitting labor. So they gave me the Pitocin. And what that does is it increases your contractions so that, the gates will open faster. And so
they're giving those trolls whips.
Precisely. What that does, it helps to do that, but it also can put the baby into distress.
Yes.
Because, like, there's a lot of contracting around the uterus going on. So with the Pitocin, the baby, Charlotte,
the byproduct of this, we say the baby, the abstract baby
I know.
is now a human.
Yeah, exactly. So Charlotte, she's in there and her heart rate starts to plummet.
Well, she's being anaconda constricted by her uterus.
I guess. I don't know. But so they're having to which was a scary moment where like the alarm started going on and everyone starts rushing in and like there's like 6 people over me, you know, because something's wrong with the baby, and it was a scary moment.
That would be terrified because
yeah, it was a couple of scary times exactly like that. So they kept having to up and then down and then up and down the Pitocin, which is what took me so long to actually get to this 6 centimeter stage.
Well, yeah. So Laura's been dancing around this 6 centimeter for what feels like an eternity. And I didn't even live it. I'm just hearing about it secondhand. But once you get there, your contractions will become strong enough to maybe boa constrictor a baby, closer together and regular. Your legs might cramp, which if you have a good epidural, you won't even feel that shit. Like, fuck that. You don't even need to worry about it.
I wish.
And you would feel maybe a little nauseated, which I'm nauseated just hearing about it. So I imagine there's probably a lot of nausea involved in this whole process. So by now, will feel your water break if it hasn't already, which water breaking only happens to 15% of the women who have a baby, which is a lot of women.
Well, it really, because I mean, you think of that sitcom thing, right,
like
where she's standing and push, and also like the way I hear it, it's not a push. It's usually like a, did I just pee myself? Like people are like confused on what happens.
Yes. So in the Lord of the Rings analogies, this would be like an Isengard situation where the dam is broken and it's flooded, and you're just like, what just happened? It's not Ents this time. It's
a baby.
It's the baby busting through your dam.
Water,
pa, pa,
pa. My water did not break in natural. They had to break it for me because I was getting to this point and there was no breakage. They had to break it. There was also a scenario where I forget the technical term for it, but basically she pooed while she was in there.
Oh God, how rude!
Yeah. It happens pretty frequently, but it raises risk factors for birth. I mean, this is why babies died left and right in birth, like because the gates aren't open and they've wet the bed inside there,
and then they're just swimming in it. You know.
Yeah.
They've truly shitted on the situation.
Exactly.
Luckily, we live in modern times and they can take care of that. So once you hit this stage, what happens? What happened when you actually got dilated? Yes.
My epidural, the second one that they placed, still wasn't working. So I'm still experiencing ravaging contractions, much worse than they were before. And so what happened,
if you had to quantify or give us an analogy or try to explain to me, somebody who's never had a birth contraction, what does it feel like?
Like something is trying to claw its way out of your body. You know, you've had a Charlie horse, right?
I have, yes.
Way worse than that.
Oh, and it's like in such a central part.
Exactly. It's like the sun, like it radiates everywhere. It's awful. The epidural that I was having, that I had, it would work for a while. How they do it, when they place the epidural, they give you one big whack of whatever the medication is that dumbs the pain. And then they give you a little button, you know, like the morphine thing. And they're like, okay, you can press this every 15 minutes or whatever, you know, to give you an up. That little uppy machine didn't do jack shit for me. Like I was emptying the stuff, like I was banging it and it was getting in there, but nothing was happening.
It's literally like that button at a crosswalk. You just mash it and nothing happens.
Oh, my cat's coming to see me. Did you hear him?
Oh, Buggy. It's little Bug.
Bug's back. He's feeling better. Anyway.
So 24 hours at this point.
After the epidural, yeah. 24 hours after I got the epidural.
And you can't move, yes? You're half paralyzed.
When I'm feeling good, yeah, I can't move. I'm just sitting there.
What did you do for 24 hours? Just like you haven't had pants on this whole time. No. Obviously, you're
everyone, your legs, modesty becomes a thing you never even knew existed. You come in, there's 6 people looking at your vag. You're just open out to the world. People coming in, sticking their fingers up there, checking all around.
Oh yeah. I feel like that would maybe be more traumatizing to me than the pain.
No, trust me, it's not. You don't give a shit at that point. You're totally over it. And what do you do? I don't know. Well, first of all, I was dealing with a lot of pain because the fucking epidural didn't work. In between, I would be talking to the nurses or talking to my husband. I'm not allowed to eat anything, so that sucked. I was starving.
Yeah, that would be horrible. I can't not eat for 8 hours, let alone 24.
Yeah. So no, this is more than 24 because if I came in at 11 p.m., it's actually, this is from 7 to 7 is when I had the epidural. That's 24 hours.
Yeah.
There's another 8 hours before that. I don't know math. What, 32 hours?
I'm not a human biologist or a human body expert, but I'm going to say that might have had something to do with why you didn't poo on the table.
Exactly. That is precisely why I didn't, because I hadn't eaten. When I had full faculty of my legs in the 8 hours that I was there before I got the epidural, I did poo at the hospital, when I'm like hooked up to the IV, but you just like bring your IV stand into the bathroom and you poo.
Well, yeah, no. If I ever was to give birth, I would be like fucking Kendall Jenner it, taking some skinny tea the day before.
No, you
Cleanse
wouldn't.
it out. Cleanse it out. I'm not literally more traumatic. I would rather squeeze a baby out in front of people than squeeze a turdlet out. And
well, yeah, of course
I
you
will
would.
die on that.
Of course
That's my
you would,
hill that I
but-
will die on.
But when you have that pain, you don't fucking care anymore. It's just like whatever is going on, it's just like, get it out of me. Whatever it is, make it stop. It's awful.
Which is why torture is not an effective way of gaining intel.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's move on to the next stage. You're fully dilated. The epidural worked. It didn't work. It worked. Whatever. We're getting to the point where the baby is actually making her grand entrance on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we call active birth. And this is what everything is leading up to. Just to right now. You have hours. You have countless ounces, centimeters of pain. Whatever the measurement of pain is. You got countless of it. Now your gates are fully open to Mordor, and the Black Army is working its way out. You're fully dilated. Baby moves into the vagina, aka the birth canal. And they're starting to make their debut into the world.
Okay.
Could you feel, and also this is when you start to push, mind you. You're not really pushing at the other times, yes?
No, you're not pushing. They tell you when to push.
So now you're starting to push. So could you feel the difference between all of the 27, 32 hours you were in? You could tell when she finally hit.
Yes.
She finally hit that.
Absolutely. I think, in fact, I could tell the difference between pre-labor and active labor. Like because what happens, not only does the cervix open, it also effaces, where it like lowers a little bit. And so the baby drops lower into your pelvis.
Okay.
You can feel that. Like the lower back pain, the pressure that you feel in your pelvis. I was like, what is happening right now? Like it was just, that was constant. It wasn't just like contraction pain. Like that pain of her dropping into the pelvis was very consistent. And that wasn't an agonizing pain like a contraction. It was just like an ache. I'm not going to say a dull ache because it did not feel dull.
No.
But it was a different kind of pain that was just constant and didn't stop, when I felt her lower down. In fact, I'm like, it feels like I have to take the biggest shit of my life. Is literally what it feels like.
Oh, but unlike a shit and women on the show, I didn't know I was pregnant. You weren't on a toilet.
Nope.
And that wasn't something you could just flush away. So my question, like the pain, right? Does the pain come from just fitting the baby through the cervix? Or is it from the vagina stretching? Because I feel like the vagina should be able to bear that a little bit better.
It's from the cervix opening, and then literally your pelvis is stretching, like, because there's a layer of cartilage in there, right? Like,
oh no,
I don't have an anatomy and diagram in front of me, but there is a thing of cartilage that stretches on purpose because it has to make room for a baby coming through there. So it's your uterus shifting in new ways and a baby making its way down there. It's your pelvis spreading to make room for that.
yes.
And it's the cervix dilating and then that when they're like down in there, like right against the cervix and the cervix is open, that's when it's time to push.
Goddamn miracle right there. Anyway, so the pushing. As somebody who hasn't given birth, it's very confusing to me. The pushing. How do you know how to push in the moment?
It's very simple. It's very instinctual. Your body knows what to do. It literally, these are the muscles that you take to make a shit, to have a shit, to do a shit. I don't know. It's the muscles to poop.
That's wild. But it does make sense that you wouldn't have to like think a lot about it, right? No. Because there's a lot of things we do that we don't have to think about. This is probably
like
not
when you take a shit.
Well, yeah. Nobody taught you how to take a shit. No one was like,
exactly.
Flex this muscle, then this muscle.
I can tell you that Charlotte knew very early from the beginning how to take a shit.
She literally did it inside your body, so she knows. That little bitch knows.
She knows.
But like also with throwing up, like that takes a whole opposite kind of contraction and pushing. Like you don't need to practice throwing up. It just happens.
Yep, it's the same thing.
So that's wild. So, okay, so the baby, it drops, its head's in there, it's starting to make its way through. This whole process, once you hit here, it could be a long road to get here. But once you get here, things start happening a little faster. This whole process should not take longer than 3 hours if you're a first-time mom. If it's your second baby, it should not take more than 2.
So this is the point where they pull out the stirrups and they put your legs up, because before this you're just laying in bed. So they pull out the stirrups, they adjust the bed so you're in that position. They put you up and they're like, all right, we're gonna do some practice pushes is what they tell you. and so the point, what you're trying to do is the baby's head has to clear the pubic bone, and this takes time, a series of pushes to get the head past this. So like you'll push. I can't, I'm having a hard time describing it verbally because I like want to use, hand gestures to do it.
Laura is like shoving her fist through her fingers that are like an okay sign size, and she's just jamming it through.
But so like you'll push and the baby head will like push against it and like get a little bit past it, but then you stop pushing and it'll like bounce back. I mean, again, the closest thing I can think of is always taking a shit. You
like,
push,
heave, ho,
and then it zips back in as soon as you stop pushing. Like that's what it does. So you have to spend time pushing. And each time because I have a girl, but she is getting a little bit further down, a little bit further down, a little bit further down. And so eventually she will clear that pubic bone. Her head will clear the pubic bone, and that's the hardest
there,
part.
It's all gravy,
all downhill from there, which is true.
Well, cool. So once the head is through, the big noggin, and then the shoulders kind of come through, crowning, baby comes through, and then after that, a few more pushes, the rest of the body comes out. Wah, 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 baby's on the scene. Happy ending, right? Wrong. I answered my own question. Your baby's out. Congratulations, you are a mother. You are the mother Gaia. You are one with the world.
Oh man, did I feel so beautiful, Gaia, one with the world.
But joke's on you, because the nightmare isn't over yet. Your baby has an ugly twin that's still inside of you, and it's called the placenta, the afterbirth. You still gotta slide that thing right out of you, because this little asshole has been living in you for 9 months. And this bitch could not be considerate enough to take out the trash once. They literally just let it pile around. They like never cleaned the toilet. They might have even used the toilet. And they just like left all their garbage behind them. And they were like, I'm out of here. Bye. Good luck. Have fun with it. And then after you have this baby, this human, you have to birth their garbage or their leftovers.
Yep. So Austin cut the umbilical cord, and then they take her like to the other side of the room, to measure and weigh and make sure that she's okay. And I think that was when I pushed out the placenta, but honestly, it's a little bit of a blur. I don't remember. I do remember saying, I'm like, I want to see the placenta. when it came out. I just did. I don't want to eat it or anything like another hippie.
Well, that's what I was gonna
weirdos.
say next. Did your like? You want to eat it? You want to like put it on the grill? Like
No, I just wanted to see it, and it just looked like this disgusting lump with a ton of veins on it, like is what it looked like. And he showed me. He's like, "This is the outside," and like that, and then he turned it inside out. I was like, "This is the inside. Like this is her side," and like it was interesting. And then it went in a bucket, and then assumed it went in the trash.
Bucket. Jeez. That you gave life to that. Like you didn't have a college fund for the placenta?
I did not.
Jeez Louise. So we talked about this whole situation. Even when you have the afterbirth, that's not done yet. You're going to leave the hospital with still a lot of work to do on your body. Your uterus, for one, has literally become 200 times bigger. And not just bigger, it's fucking just moved to a new spot. So this little badass has to shrink back to its normal size, which is like, what, that big? It's a little tiny thing.
No, it's like a pear, I think, naturally. Normally.
Okay.
It's like a pear.
It's not big. It doesn't have a lot of real estate normally.
Yeah.
But it's got to shrink back to that size. And it's also just got to like stroll down your body to get back to where it normally sits.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like goosh. So after you give birth, you basically have like a 6-week period where period is in menstruation, like where
Just like things are falling out of
Oh
your
yeah.
hoo-ha.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You got to wear diapers, is my understanding.
I think it depends on the person. I didn't have to wear diapers. Like they give you like these industrial sized pads.
Oh, so
basically.
you just free blood? You just free blood everywhere?
No.
like-
I mean, like they give you like they give you like these giant industrial sized pads and like these medical underwear to wear because it's a lot at first, and they give you.
Hey, I wear medical underwear every day.
Hey there, listeners, it's Laura. While Rachel and I were researching where we're going to market our new brand of medical underwear, or should I say knickers, we noticed a big uptick in downloads this week in the good old United Kingdom. In this week's hometown shout out, we want to say hello to Carterton, England and Barnet, England. Thank you so much for listening, and give us a shout out at rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com. Let us know where you heard about us. And if you have an impolite topic you'd like us to cover, like why Americans can't make good beer, let us know. We might cover it on our next Fan Friday episode. Now, back to the conversations on the miracle of life.
So, we have a lot of details of what it's like to give birth. And it sounds
fabulous.
not great.
No, it's fabulous. The miracle of life. No, it sucks.
So, I have questions, but I feel like we touched on all these questions before. How bad is the pain really?
Pretty bad.
Is there anything you can do to maybe ease the pain going into it?
Oh God, there's all this shit online about breathing techniques and hypnobirthing. Apparently this is a thing now. Meditate your way past the pain. Fuck that.
That's some patriarchal bullshit.
It is sound like some patriarchal bullshit to me. It is what it is, y'all. It fucking hurts.
Wait, is there anything physically you can do? Like, are you supposed to, like, prepare any part of the body?
Yeah. There's, you can do, perineum stretches where you or your partner, if you feel like that, can,
if you're feeling sexy.
Yeah, can put their thumbs in your vagina and start to pull their thumbs apart and stretching those muscles.
Wait, isn't that just like a normal Tuesday night?
No. I actually tried this on my own, not like with my partner.
You did?
I did. Like, I was like, okay, let's try this. It hurt.
How did you reach?
It's hard when you're pregnant, let me tell you. There was at some point where I was like, I can't wipe. It's hard to wipe while I'm pregnant.
Well, I can't, like, literally, if I'm sore from working out too much, it gets difficult.
But so, like, pre-labor, I tried, like, to stretch it out, and I'm like, that hurts. And so I stopped.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was just a prequel of what was to come.
Yeah, little did I know.
No kidding. If you're like, that hurts, like, that's the sign that you're like, oh, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, that sounds horrible. Well, okay, painful. On a scale of 1 to 10, like those charts from, like, a...
10.
Okay,
10.
okay. But you've also never been shot, so
True.
keep that in mind.
True.
No, I'm kidding. I think birth probably hurts more than shooting. Adrenaline kicks in. So the pooing.
Okay.
You didn't poo.
No.
But when a baby's being born, like you said, it essentially feels like you're taking a huge shit. Yes.
Yeah, and so I feel like, this was my first child.
Your first human child. You have a lot of cat children.
True. So apparently after your first, everything goes a lot easier and a lot faster in the second round. So,
oh, yeah. Because your body's like, I know how to do this shit.
Exactly. So your cervix is less like Mordor and more like the 7-Eleven auto door. It's a little bit more used to being open.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, exactly.
Beep, beep.
So all this happens much faster. So you don't have to go through that 12 hours of not eating. So I understand why a lot of people poo on the table because, they got one in the chamber, right? And when you're pushing, you're pushing. So whatever comes out, comes out.
We learned that in our poo episode because your body takes 24 hours to process something. So whatever you ate, because I feel like by the time you're 9 months pregnant, you're like, I'm eating whatever the fuck I want to get me through this. So you might have not just like one in the chamber, but it might be like a fucking
full house. Yeah.
A buckshot. It's going to go every direction. And it's going to turn your OBGYN into Dick Cheney's hunting partner. Just pop, 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 pop. That's probably the best joke I've had on this show yet. Okay.
Kudos.
But yes. So poo, and it's normal. So if you are in the position with your legs up in front of a lot of people and something just kind of ekes out back there, it's probably not the worst thing they've seen that day.
Oh,
so
totally.
Life goes on. And so then my last question, we hit a lot of it in the actual conversation, but you see on TV AKA the media. I don't know why I said AKA, but you see on TV and the shows these women and they go in and they have a baby and they like literally roll out the next day and they look fucking slim and trim. How long do you look pregnant?
Well, 6 weeks for your uterus to actually totally empty. And get all that fluid out and things like that. But you're also
6
really,
weeks?
yeah, 6 weeks. But you're
That's a
also
long time.
really swollen from all the IV fluids that they give you. My feet look like hippo feet. Like I have very bony like feet. You can see a lot of the bones in
Your feet are small.
and ankle. Yeah, and you could not see any of those my first like week after. They were just swollen and gross. So it takes a good amount of time for your body to get back to normal.
So, and then my final question, which I think we talked about, how long before you can get back on the old horse,
Well, I think it's technically 6 weeks. Like you have a 6 weeks.
Legally, it's, yeah,
6 weeks follow up. Like the doctor is like, you're clear. You can go back to work. And you can
go back to work.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember when exactly we got back on the wagon, so to speak, but I know I was officially cleared by the doctor at 6 weeks, but I can tell you I had little to no desire to get back on the wagon at that point, that's for sure.
When do you think when did the desire come back?
Probably maybe like 12 weeks. Even then, that might be a little generous, but
it's AKA never.
Yeah,
I gotta deal with this fucking mini human. I'm not trying to make another. Okay, so now we've talked about it, the process, what happens after, all that fun stuff. I just let's get into the musing. Like childbirth, obviously it fucking sucks. It sounds like.
Yeah,
I haven't even been there, and it doesn't sound fun.
No.
So, not only is it not fun, but it's straight dangerous.
Yeah.
Almost 1,000 women die every day in childbirth. So sad because most of it, I feel like the women who are dying of childbirth aren't typically the ones who maybe chose to get pregnant in the first place. These are maybe women who are living in different countries, places where they don't have as much autonomy. Either way, it's fucking horrible. So why do we die? Like, we talked about the nature shows earlier. I've seen a fucking gazelle, punt a baby out of their body and get up and run away. and the baby included. Everybody's like,
everyone's like, let's go.
like the fucking cheetah's chasing them, and then they projectile the afterbirth into the cheetah's face to be like, fuck you, cheetah, eat that for dinner. And then cheetah's like, what? Like, it's so different. The experience we have as humans is so different than when we used to watch on the Animal Planet or Nat Geo. So, like, what happened to our species?
Good question. Do you have the answers?
I have some kind of answer. I don't know if it's the answer. I'm not God. I don't know. I didn't intelligently design this shit. AKA nobody did. What I've learned in my research is that our literal species has traded the lives of countless women for our ability to stand upright and our big, sexy brains.
Our big noggins.
Yes. So in becoming a species that stands upright, our pelvis had to shrink. Mm-hmm. So we can't just like... We can't just shoot babies out in that way. Our pelvis is smaller. And I've also learned in this research that we literally keep human babies inside of our bodies until the literal point that their head is going to be too big to pass through us. Yeah. It's like a very thin line that we toe, because if it stayed any longer, the head would get too big. Everybody would die in the situation. But it's big enough that our brains have developed as much as they did.
And even so, like they say the first 3 months of a baby's life is the 4th trimester, which I totally agree with. Like, because their babies don't start to really engage with their world until around 3 months. So even then, they're birthed before they have the ability to really recognize what's going on around them. And that's because of the big ass brain.
Oh, yeah. We have truly laid down a lot at the altar of intelligence, which is why we've gotten to where we are, why we're not living on a savanna or in a prairie somewhere and that we can make a podcast.
Yeah.
It's because our intelligence and our brains have literally superseded every physical element of our bodies. And god damn, is it not just amazing?
I agree.
And that's pretty shitty to think about, right? That like, to achieve this status, to achieve this intelligence, we had to sacrifice so many women. And I know that it sounds like weird to say here, but you and I are both women, and you especially having a baby, you can relate to those experiences of the women who literally gave the ultimate sacrifice in bringing about our intelligence into the world.
Well, and not only that, it's usually if the mother dies, the baby dies, right? That's not, I guess that, actually, I don't know that that's accurate, but at least...
I feel like that's accurate. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a behavioralist, I'm not anything, but like, in most cases, if the mom dies, the baby dies.
Yeah.
I can't imagine humans being any different.
Yeah, but it's not like there's anybody to blame for it, you know what I mean? It's just the way that the evolutionary cookie crumbled. You know, it's just as a species, it's how we have developed, and clearly it's working out for us. Like you said, we're here doing a podcast, not scavenging for food. Apparently, somebody knew what they were doing somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I am very fat and happy.
Exactly.
So, but it's still a very traumatic experience. And at times, one of my things that I discovered in my research is that childbirth, in fact, can lead to PTSD in women. Can you relate to that?
Do you mean think that PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I've read about this. And one of the things that has come up to me in reading about this, because I read a lot about birth before I gave birth, because I'm like, I want to know what to expect.
Why not?
Yeah.
The fucking world's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Internet.
Exactly.
Big brains.
Yeah. So I was watching, YouTube videos of people giving birth and the ugly, gross, disgusting videos. And I think that some people, they did have a very awful experience that was traumatic, because things went horribly wrong. But some of my research showed that a lot of these people who had women who had a form of PTSD after the fact, it was because they came in it with completely fucked up expectations. Like, they thought it was going to be this Mother Gaia experience, and then it turned out to be exactly what it is, which is ugly and horrible and painful and
primal. We live in a very filtered world.
Exactly.
You know, we like to hide the ugly parts of being human, but in this case, you are raw, animalistic, mammalian.
Yeah, and not in like a nature channel way, but in a, oh my God kind of way. There are some people who did have truly awful experiences where, like, it was touch and go, somebody's gonna die, it was terrifying in the moment scenarios, but a lot of the PTSD scenarios are people who just didn't have realistic expectations going in.
And there's a lot of media and stuff to support the unrealistic expectations. You hear a lot about these mommy blogs and these naturalist paths and like, I'm going to do a water birth.
Yeah, exactly. I am completely confounded by that. Why is having a baby in water better than not? I don't get it, but...
Well, according to this documentary that did air on Animal Planet, that was a spoof, as we are all very closely related to mermaids. So the best way to have a mermaid baby is to push it out in the water, then it starts to do laps around your paddle pool that you're birthing in. It flops out of the water like fucking Free Willy. And then you put it in SeaWorld to live a life in a tiny tank. And its dorsal fin flops over.
Everyone's really sad.
Blackfin. That's a reference to what, like 2013?
Yeah, that's an old documentary.
Oh, man. But those orcas sure killed a lot of people.
Well, they're mad, so I'll give them credit.
For sure. I'm looking it up right now. Blackfish was the movie. And it did come out in 2013.
Good job, Rachel.
Hey. You know, it only takes 4 cocktails for me to
remember the exact year.
A historian. Okay, I think we should probably get this wrapped up.
All right,
what do you
fair.
think? There's a whole lot to still unpack about birth, and I think, you know, podcasts are indefinite. We'll probably come back and touch on some of these things. Maybe after Laura has her second baby, we'll get her opinion.
No comment on that one.
That's the patriarchy coming out of my mouth. It's weird how the patriarchy comes out of our mouths when all it wants to do is come in our mouths, but that's a story for another day.
I really like that quote. I might put that on a bumper sticker somewhere.
It's 4 cocktails and now suddenly I'm funny. Okay. It's wild. But that's it. Birth is rough and it traumatizes women. It actually stops a lot of women from getting pregnant. I read that in a statistic that it's just like women don't want to get pregnant because they don't want to experience it.
That's fair. It's not fabulous. The process of birth is not fabulous. But I will say, and this is coming from a person that was like, I don't get kids. I don't understand. Blah, 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 blah. I had a lot to say about children and mommies and all that kind of stuff. It is its own form of rewarding. I did not understand before because I didn't have a kid, but it's worth it. I know that everyone says that, and I would have laughed at myself if I would have heard it before, but...
I don't think anybody denied that it was worth it. I mean, that's why so many people do it.
Yeah, that's what I said through the whole thing. I was like, when I was pregnant, I was like, I know that there has to be something more to this, because millions of people do it every day. And
yes. And I mean, there's probably a good chunk of women who don't really have a say in it. They're just kind of like, well, I guess I'm pregnant and I have to have a baby now.
Yeah. But when that baby comes out, you give it enough time, it delivers, man. This kiddo, she's something, man.
Well, that is, I think, where we're gonna land at. It's horrible. It's hard. It's nature. We're very protected from nature in our normal lives, but this is one area where you can't get away from.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something today, or you want to educate us something, in which case send us an email, rude@impolitepodcast.com. Check us out on the socials, Impolite Society Podcast. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Give us a shout out.
Or if you have a rude question of your own, please send us a rude question. Even if we haven't experienced it, I will research the shit out of it and I will be your news anchor.
we're all in it to win it. So we look forward to hearing from you, and thank y'all for listening. We'll talk at you in 2 weeks with a new impolite question on impolite society.
What's that?
Oh, are those the drums, or is that the palpitation of our uteruses?
No, that only happens when I can't think of somebody sexy enough for that.
Timothy Oliphant. All right, those are the drums. TTYL.
I love you.
We love you.
Goodbye. Yeah, we done.